What's going on, guys? Hey, today I want to talk about something. I've basically talked about this before in another video that was more scripted than this one that was a mix of scripted and non-scripted. And the whole thing is over the subject of the video game Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I purchased the game. I'm not that deep into the game. I'm loving it so far. It's playing really well on the Steam Deck. In fact, Steam Deck has really been impressing me lately. I'm also playing Ghost of Tsushima, which I've already played that like numerous times already on the PlayStation, but not the new PlayStation. That's a long story. I had one, but I don't have the 5 anymore. But anyway, totally different story. But Ghost of Tsushima is also playing very well on the Steam Deck, and it's not even compatible with it, according to what they say on Steam. So I was really shocked at how well it ran and how absolutely stunning it is on the Steam Deck. So both games are stunning on the Steam Deck. But man, you know what? I was really disappointed yesterday. Not too disappointed because, I don't want to exaggerate too much, but there was a level of disappointment that I felt yesterday. And I'm not going to call any names because the channel I was watching, I'm still subscribed to it. So I wasn't so disappointed to the point where I unsubscribed to the channel. And I guess in a way that's kind of sad because it's almost like, really, you never really know who you subscribe to when it comes to things like racism, bigotry, things of that nature, right? Yeah, believe it or not, those things actually exist. But anyway, so I'm listening to this channel, and the guy starts to cover the subject of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And he takes the time at the beginning to make it clear that he does not care about the politics surrounding the game and any of the drama surrounding the game. He doesn't care about any of that, that he's purely going to critique the game itself. Now, he made it clear that he liked the game, right? He said he liked the game. So I'm like, okay, you took that little part, and I understand why you did that. That's like a slice of pie. You take that little slice of pie that you just cut and you set it to the side. And now I'm going to see what else you serve it. I'm going to watch the rest of your video to see what you do with the rest of the pie. See where you go with this. So he starts out by saying something that was a little bit suspect that I've noticed in the last week has become a talking point. I've been hearing it in the last week more and more. Because a lot of people who play games and a lot of people who are in the industry are like parrots. They hear somebody say something and then they all start repeating it, especially if that talking point, that makes it easier for them to debate. They don't come up with their own theories and arguments. They take a talking point that they heard and they repeat it like a parrot or like a bunch of parrots. He said that he thought that Yasuke was a useless character, that he didn't understand why he was in the game. And I thought to myself, that's kind of strange because I've watched a number of people stream this game and review this game, and not one of them ever said that. Even the ones who love stealth. Like, I understand normally what I pick, if I can, if it's a game that allows me to do it, I pick like a mid character, like a character in the middle of both stealth and tanky. Because I also like stealth. But I also like power. So if the game allows it, I'll pick something in the middle. But I understand the whole idea of having a choice. So that part I understood. But what I didn't understand was just because you have a particular play style that you like, and there's a character in the game that has a completely different play style than the one that you prefer, to utter the words, he shouldn't be in the game, you don't understand why he's there, that's a little bit weird. I have to tell you something I noticed, even in this creator's comment section. There's a couple of brothers and sisters out there that's getting really sick of this shit. And I'm gonna tell you something, man, what it looks like for my black brothers out there, it looks like, and for decent white people who aren't incels and insecure, it looks like we have a high number of people, and this is no surprise to anybody really, who basically think there should be no black heroes. And when there is a black hero, it should only be under certain circumstances. Now, obviously, this game did very well. And like I just told you, all the people I saw stream the game, let me be clear, they were white. And this did not bother them at all. And it's surprising to me that the first creator that I heard say these things about Yasuke came from this particular creator. Now, I'm supporting the creator. I'm still, to tell you, how much, it doesn't really, bother me to the point where it enrages me. And like I said before, that might be kind of sad, because that might be kind of like subconsciously I'm saying to myself, really, in the grand scheme of things, is this really so surprising? I never once thought about hitting the unsubscribe button or the thumbs down button or anything. I didn't hit the like button either, but I didn't hit the thumbs down button. And he went on, after saying that very strange thing, to say, now this is not verbatim, but it is very close. Yeah, I liked the quick character, the nimble character, and the way she moved, but this Yasuke, I just don't understand it. Like, why is he there? He's slow, he's this and that. Then he says, this big black samurai, why is he there? Well, like, I don't understand it. And I'm like, dude, why did you just say that? And apparently, I wasn't the only one who noticed that. I'm like, okay, man, look, you just said that all the controversy surrounding the game, you're not with it, you don't care about it. That's a part of the controversy of the game. If you don't care about the fact that Yasuke is black, why would you mention it? Everything else you've said about his playstyle and his skill sets, I understand. But even then, it's kind of weird to say that because a character has certain skill sets, that you don't think that character should be in the game. I can see you saying that you don't like the skill sets. That's very normal. You hear people in gaming talk about that all the time. It's a part of the skill sets of characters is one of the major topics in the discussion in video games. So I looked into his comment section, and there were a couple of people who were calling him out, and they were basically saying that, look, you guys did not have a problem with William Adams and Neo. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Because I've also talked about William Adams in a couple of my videos, which I'll put down at the bottom. William Adams was not a warrior in Japan. William Adams was an indentured servant in servitude to his lord. He was a valued indentured servant, and his story is very, very interesting. But he was a servant. He is described as a vassal that was being held captive in Japan. Now, his two skill sets were ship engineering and negotiating, which he did both for the lord that he served, the Japanese lord that he served. He was allowed to travel abroad, but his lord was very, very smart. You see, back then, poverty was rampant. Most people were poor back then. Most people didn't even know what they were going to eat from day to day. And this is including people like William Adams. I mean, just the idea of eating a great meal was just very valued back then. I mean, times were hard. It was super hard to become wealthy. Well, William Adams' lord made him very wealthy in Japan. He had a couple of nice homes, which you might describe as mansions. He had servants. He had, anything that a person could want. He was like, his life in Japan was super great. And though he was a vassal, when he was sent abroad to negotiate on behalf of Japan or his lord in different respects, he always came back. And I got kind of brain-tied there. He gave him numerous concubines, was the word I was looking for. But he lived in a fantastic life in Japan, but he was a servant, and he was never a warrior. And if you think logically, like I also said before in another video, it would be idiotic to take someone that valuable with those sort of skill sets and give him a sword and send him out onto a battlefield, because he surely would have died. Because contrary to what Tom Cruise says in The Last Samurai, you more than likely aren't going to go over to Japan and take a few combat lessons with a sword and then go over there and start kicking warriors' asses who were basically born with a sword in their hand, with a samurai in their hand. Now, those of you who might be history buffs, I'm sure that you know that the actual favorite weapon of the samurai was the bow. I understand that, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how they depict it in movies and in video games, okay? So stay with me. But someone actually brought up also the movie like Tom Cruise, or the Last Samurai. People were really kind of trolling this whole issue, in the comment section. And there were people who were saying strange things, like bringing up the complaints of the Japanese PM. They went under one comment saying, well, what about the Japanese PM and him complaining? If this was not a non-issue, why would he complain? And, I clapped back at that one. I'm like, dude, that's not even what the Japanese PM was talking about. That wasn't even the subject. Now, more than likely, this person that said that, they know that, but they depend on other people not to know that information. In other words, what I'm telling you is, it will be easy to look at that person who said that about the Japanese PM and say that person is just ignorant. They just didn't know what they were talking about. No, more than likely, they know exactly what they're talking about, but they also know how it's being used. When they first heard about this, they probably looked it up, went to an article, just like I did, because when I heard that the Japanese PM was going around complaining about Yasuke, and he was saying things about, he didn't want to like the idea of a black samurai and all of that. And when I understood the history of Yasuke and how he's played roles in different anime and all of that, and I was like, that sounds kind of weird. So I looked it up immediately a long time ago, because they were trying to say this a long time ago. And his complaints had absolutely nothing to do with that. It was about the destruction of Japanese monuments and how he thought that the game was going to promote the idea of destroying sacred Japanese monuments. And Ubisoft apologized. People were going around saying Ubisoft was apologizing for Yasuke. That's not why they were apologizing. Now, all these people who are saying these things, guys, don't give them any slack. It's not ignorance. They know that that's not what this guy was saying. They were purposely putting words in his mouth in order to certify how they feel. They want you to capitulate to their feelings about Yasuke. It has nothing to do with the Japanese PM or anything that he said. So that's the reason why the game was delayed, because they had to change that in the game. That's the reason why you still have Yasuke in the game, because the complaints that the officials were making in Japan had nothing to do with Yasuke. It was about the destruction of Japanese monuments. So when you hear people telling these kind of lies, just know these people aren't speaking from ignorance. Most people who tell lies like this, they are doing that, they're lying, and they're depending on the ignorance of other people. They're depending on you to just hear their words and not research what they're saying. One person down in the comment section was it being such a disgrace to Japanese culture because it implies that Yasuke went over there and, let's just say, he was fruitful and he multiplied, right? And I'm like, what a stupid thing to have an issue with. Like, first of all, where's your source? And second of all, races are all over the world. They're all over the world. So just because you say something that a Japanese person said, that doesn't mean that that Japanese person couldn't be wrong. No more than somebody coming over here, somebody over here in America stating their opinion about something going on over here in America. Just because they're from here, that doesn't mean that they're right. That goes for me or anybody else. Just because I'm here and I'm speaking on a subject matter that's occurring here, or an event that's occurring here, just because I'm here, it could be something happening right across the street from me. Why? I could be right here witnessing it. But that doesn't mean that my opinion about what I witnessed, my opinion about it when it comes to being wrong, right, controversial, or whatever, that doesn't mean I'm right. At best, I'm speaking my genuine opinion. So just because you're claiming, I guess what he's claiming is that, I guess he would, I pretty much know he wouldn't say I just came up with that off the top of my head. So obviously the guy is saying, without saying it, that he read that somewhere or he heard somebody say that. Let me tell you guys something. Everywhere human beings have existed together, people have fucked. When the Irish was being enslaved and placed in brutal indentured servitude to different empires such as Britain and a couple of others, Irishmen still managed to put their wee-wees into the opening of women who were a part of the elite class that was dominating them. That's how sex is a fascinating thing. You could take right now, you could take a group of people right now that's like, let's just imagine this elite empire, right? And they go out and they conquer another group of people, and they beat those people down, and they put those people in a class where they're considered less than human, right? And they bring them back to their empire and they make them slaves. They brutalize them and all type of, this happened in Rome, and just in any other empire, especially if they had slaves. Once you start getting into slavery, because with slavery normally also comes sex slavery. So once you start getting into slavery, you're pretty much done as far as if you're into the whole purity thing. If you were pure, once you start bringing people in from the outside, even if you bring them in as slaves, eventually bloodlines are going to cross. That's just the way it is. That also happened here in the United States. Black men, even as slaves, was over here having sex with white women rampantly. That's one of the reasons why there was such aggression in making laws to make it illegal. That's one of the reasons why there was such brutality towards those who would engage in such a thing, because it was rampant. It was a part of a natural human process. You can believe that you're superior, and you can believe that you're beautiful and you're the only one that women are going to be attracted to. But what you're going to find out under those circumstances is that it's not true. And the only way you're going to be able to keep all the pussy for yourself is if you make laws, and if you try to scare people into not, having sex with one another. But even then, look, we can look at history. Everywhere they've tried to do that, it has been unsuccessful. So yeah, whenever people go to another place, if Yasuke was actually there, if he was real, and I'm going to go ahead and throw in the word if, because I don't want to get into debating. Like I said, I've already done that. I don't want to go back to that. My main issue in this particular video that I'm making right now is to address these idiots, these people out here who are out here saying ignorant things and saying things which clearly indicate that they either are lying or just simply don't know what they're talking about. And like someone commented, and this is the reason why I say, man, I'm really proud to see people standing up to this. Like someone commented, when you look at the Roman Empire and how it has been depicted in Hollywood, it's been all white. Yet the Roman Empire actually was not a white empire. Were there white people there? Yeah, there were white people there, but there were white people mixed in with a whole lot of other dark people from various places around the world. Most people who were in Rome were like mixed breeds with curly hair, dark bronze skin and curly hair. How many people describe people in the Mediterranean during that time as just that, a Mediterranean type. There's no such thing as a Mediterranean race, but there's a Mediterranean type. And a lot of people in the Mediterranean was mixed breeds because, first of all, the Mediterranean was a place of the world where different people merged from the south, the north, and the east and the west. They were coming from everywhere, merging on the Mediterranean. Sex slavery and all other forms of slavery was rampant in the Mediterranean. Many wealthy men purchased their concubines, not their concubine, well, their people for their harems. I don't want to use the term concubine, but they were concubines in a sense. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. There was a lot of purchases of sex slaves and many other type of slaves in the Mediterranean. And then you had free people who just simply got together. They met each other as men and women do, and they just had sex, whether it be casual or whether they had a long-term relationship. But there was a lot of it going on, and there was a lot of mixing going on because, like I said, there were people who were coming from all corners of the world merging on the Mediterranean. Understand, in other parts of the world, life was rough. And that includes Europe, believe it or not. Europe was brutal. People were brutally poor in Europe. And they were coming here to the Mediterranean because they heard, first of all, about the weather, the life was good. People were finding fortunes in the Mediterranean. A lot of wealthy people were created, and once they came to the Mediterranean, simply put, the Mediterranean during that time was just simply known as a place to be, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people who were like slave traders also went to the Mediterranean. to catch people who were traveling to the Mediterranean, people who, placed themselves in compromising situations where they could easily be taken. And, you could be traveling in the Mediterranean as a free person, and the next thing you know, you've been captured and now you're up for sale. So it was also dangerous to travel there. So when you hear someone talking about like a Mediterranean type, because like I said before, there is no Mediterranean race. Some people seem to think there's a race of people called Mediterranean people. There isn't. When people are describing a Mediterranean type, that is a politically correct way of saying mixed breed. And that's exactly what many, many Romans were. They were mixed breeds, tended to lean on the darker side with curly hair. They were the Mediterranean type, quote unquote. But when you look at the movies, all you see is stereotypical white people walking around, sometimes with blonde hair and blue eyes. And for some strange reason, in the movies, they speak with a British accent. I don't really understand that. But anyway, I'm not a movie producer. But in their military campaigns, what a lot of people don't know is Romans used people from around the world. I don't think people understand to what extent they did. Like, for example, if you're just basing it on documentaries and movies, you probably don't know that their favorite archers to use were Nubian archers. When they went on their military campaigns and they were traveling to different places around the world, that was a very colorful military campaign. Like I said, they actually took Nubian archers with them around the world because they respected their skills so much. But when you look at the movies and when they pan out and they show all of the soldiers in place, all of the archers, all of the cavalry, all of the foot soldiers, all you see is white people. Every now and then you may see someone peppered in that may look a little dark or whatever. And think about this, guys. We're living in a time where a white actor, this is absurd, actually played the role of Michael Jackson. Now, think for a moment how absurd that is. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, especially some brothers and sisters out there. Well, Michael Jackson wanted to be white because he bleached his skin and, they talk about his kids and all that. Well, 2 points I want to make on that. First of all, he said that he had a medical condition. I forgot what it's called, but it's a real thing. It actually happens. He said he didn't bleach his skin. Secondly, he vehemently spoke out against them having a white actor to play him as a character. Now, here is a person who's alive, who's telling the people, who's making the movie, hey, I want a black person to play me in the movie. I do not want a white actor to play me. I want a black actor to play me. He's voicing that. The person from the movie, we go back to my father playing Jason Thomas. Jason Thomas probably never got a chance to express this. They knew that he was black. They still got a white actor to play Jason Thomas. Here it is. Michael Jackson, still alive during that time, voicing his concern, vehemently speaking out, saying, hey, don't do this. He's practically begging them not to do this, but they did it anyway. Now imagine had they got a black person to play the role of, Van Halen. Imagine that. If they got a black person, even if that black person had like long hair, long curly hair and all of that, and he could play the role really well, and he depicted his personality to the point where it was uncanny, still people would have an issue with it. And you know what? I would be right there with them. I would be right there with them. There would definitely be, because don't get it twisted, there was some protest against this, right? There was some protest against this. There was also some protest against my father playing Jason Thomas, but it was on a very, 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 very low scale. My point about Michael Jackson is that thing would have been blown up. Everybody in the world would have known about this protest. And even the most reasonable people, had you got a black guy to play Van Halen, even the most reasonable people, after hearing about this, and they would have heard about it, You're getting a black guy to play Van Halen. He's a good actor, acts just like Van Halen. All the people who know Van Halen confirm wow, I got to tell you, the way the guy's acting, man, I thought I was in the room with Van Halen. If there was a wall between us, I would have thought Van Halen was on the other side of the wall. But he's black. I would have been right there with him because that's absurd. Now, I want to end this video by stating a couple of things. You have to understand that if you're one of these people who have an issue with seeing black people here and there in various forms of media, I just tell you this, man, I feel no compassion for you at all. You have to understand the lens in which I see this life and this society. I grew up during a time when the image of Jesus on the walls in most houses, especially here in the United States, was an image of a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes. I grew up during a time where a popular character named Tarzan, was lost in the jungle and was raised by gorillas or monkeys or something like that. And this dude, his image was that of the king of the jungles of Africa. From the treetops, he would let out this silly, stupid sounding yodel sound that would be heard all across the land. And these black, brave African warriors who were born with a spear and a shield in their hand would be merging on an area, attacking it. And when they would hear that stupid yodel go throughout the land, their eyes would go buck wide like buckwheat, and they would all turn and run in the opposite direction. You know what? Even though I realize how absolutely absurd that is still one of my favorite movies today. I still even love watching the classic Tarzan movies. But I know the idea of it is absurd. I know the idea that all of these black warriors would hear that stupid sound ring throughout the land and their eyes would get buck wide and they would all go, Tarzan, oogla boogla, run, run, run. I know that is absurd, but I'm still able to stay grounded enough mentally to see it as, now back then, of course, movies like that were also propaganda, but nowadays it's just purely entertainment. It's purely entertainment. I am not butthurt about it at all. I'm not triggered about it at all. But I think that's also because from our end, not only black people, but just other people around the world, because different cultures have had white people to play the roles of different historic figures from their culture. That's just how it is, man. I mean, you go back to Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. You go back to Yul Brynner. I forgot exactly what Egyptian historical figure he was supposed to be playing. But anyway, Yul Brynner, it doesn't even remotely look like anybody who's from the region of Egypt. But the world is just accustomed to seeing that sort of thing because it's been going on for so long. And now that is ingrained into the brains of many people. Even the people who are complaining about things like Yasuke, even they think like that. That's the reason why they don't complain when they see white actors playing the role of historic figures, whether they're from mythology or not, that clearly were not white. It doesn't bother them. And they're not going to ever complain about these things because this subject is an insincere subject. But look, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I just kind of wanted to chime in on this unscripted, just kind of have a conversation. I thought about doing something more organized, but I was like, man, bump that. Just sit down and talk about it. So that's what I'm doing here. And man, it was good to see people, man, not being afraid to challenge some of these creators out here who are out here, whether it be the thing I didn't like about this particular creator was how he made a sad attempt to do it on the sly. He tried to do it on the sly, tried to act like, well, that's not what he was doing, when clearly that is what he was doing. But yeah, man, we're in a hobby where we're going to encounter these people who simply have it in their head that there should be no black heroes. Some are going to slip through the cracks and they're not going to complain about it. But whenever they get a chance to complain about it, and all it's going to take is for one or two people to set, spark the flames. And then these people are going to add kindle to the fire and they're going to complain about it, man. So that's just the hobby we're in. We just sit back and be entertained by these people, man, and how they make their arguments without supplying any facts or without even knowing any facts. But again, I go back and say a lot of these people do know the facts. It's just that they hope you don't know it. But this is something that we're going to encounter going forward, because of course you're going to see more black people and more black characters depicted in video games. And the more we see this, you're going to see these people out here who have decided that this is the hill that they're going to die on. They're going to complain about this every chance they get, even when it is completely unnecessary and uncalled for. You know, their favorite word for it these days is woke. They're just totally hijacking the word and trying to change the meaning of it, which is totally moronic when you consider what the word woke actually means and when you consider how it has been used historically since the 60s. How is it logical to even? I have not had one person to be able to explain to me how it is logical to use the word woke to describe someone who has some sort of, because many times I can agree that there are certain agendas and certain times people have these ideologies that just sound stupid. And so I agree with that. But why the word woke? I mean, it's just totally illogical. And I've not had anyone who have been able to logically explain to me why the word woke has been stolen to mean something like that. But anyway, guys, let me go ahead and end this video. If you liked the video, give it a like. And if you didn't like it, hey, give it a thumbs down, because I don't care and the YouTube algorithm doesn't care either. You can say whatever you want to say in the comment section as long as you articulate it respectfully. If you're disrespectful, of course, I'll block you from the channel. So that's the good thing about people coming into comment sections acting like a fool. They give you a chance to block them from the channel. So, but anyway, guys, as usual, stay safe.